The lock clicked behind me at 11:47 p.m. The cabin was smaller than the photos showed, darker, the kind of dark that feels occupied. I set my bag down, and that's when I heard it. Footsteps, upstairs, where no one else should be. Few people talk about what happens in these mountains. The Appalachian wilderness holds secrets older than the roads that cut through it. Secrets that don't care if you believe in them or not. These are 10 true stories from travelers who came looking for peace and found something else entirely. Something that was already waiting. I wasn't supposed to be alone that night. My friend canceled last minute. "Work emergency," she said. So there I was, standing in a cabin deep in the Smoky Mountains, keys in one hand, phone in the other, watching the bars flicker and die, and no service. The host's message was clear. Kitchen stocked, fireplace works, enjoy the silence. I did enjoy it. For about 20 minutes. Then I heard the footsteps upstairs. Slow, deliberate, like someone pacing back and forth across the same stretch of floor. I stood frozen at the bottom of the stairs, listening. The floorboards groaned with each step, heavy, real. I called out. Nothing! The footsteps stopped. I waited. 1 minute, 2. Then they started again, closer this time, moving toward the staircase. I grabbed my keys and ran outside into the freezing night air, my breath clouding in front of me like smoke. The cabin sat there, windows black, silent now. I called the host. No answer. I called the police. They said they'd send someone, but it would take 40 minutes. 40 minutes alone in the dark with something walking upstairs? I didn't go back inside. I sat in my car with the doors locked, engine running, watching the cabin. And at exactly 12:30 a.m., I saw it. A figure in the upstairs window, standing perfectly still, looking down at me. The police arrived an hour later. 2 officers. Tired eyes. They'd clearly driven these mountain roads 1,000 times. They searched the cabin, top to bottom, every room, every closet, every shadow. Nothing. No signs of forced entry, no footprints except mine, no evidence anyone else had been there. One officer looked at me with something between pity and suspicion. Old houses make sounds, he said. Wind gets in the walls, plays tricks, but I saw his partner glance up at that window, the one where I'd seen the figure, and I saw something in his face. Recognition. Like he'd heard this before. Like he knew something he wasn't saying. They left. Told me I was safe. Told me to get some sleep. I didn't sleep. I sat in my car until dawn, watching that window. And just before sunrise, I saw it again. The figure. Standing in the same spot. Same posture. Same stillness. But this time, as the first light hit the glass, I could see more clearly. It wasn't standing. It was hanging, suspended, swaying slightly, like something caught in a gentle breeze that didn't exist. The second story comes from a couple celebrating their anniversary. They rented a converted barn outside Asheville. Rustic charm, the listing said. Mountain views, total privacy. What it didn't mention was the door. The one in the hallway, painted black, padlocked from the outside. They asked the host about it the next morning. She laughed it off. Just storage, she said. Old junk from the previous owners. Nothing to worry about. But that night, they heard scratching. Faint at first, like fingernails on wood, coming from behind the black door. Then came the whispers. Soft, muffled. A voice that sounded like it was speaking through layers of fabric, calling a name over and over, a name that wasn't theirs. The husband got up, pressed his ear against the door. The scratching stopped immediately. The whispering stopped. Complete silence. He stepped back, and that's when they both heard it. Breathing. Right on the other side of the door. Shallow, rapid, like whatever was in there knew they were listening, like it had been waiting for them to get close. The wife grabbed her phone to record it, to prove they weren't imagining things. But the moment she pressed record, the breathing changed. It became laughter, low, wet, the kind of laughter that doesn't come from joy. It comes from something broken. Before you turn off the lights tonight, hit subscribe and ring that bell. Because here at Chills from Reality, every story leaves a mark, one you might not forget. They didn't sleep that night. They moved their mattress downstairs, as far from that door as possible. But around 3 a.m., they heard something else. Footsteps in the hallway upstairs, walking toward the black door, then stopping. They heard the padlock rattle. Once, twice, testing. Like something was trying to open it from their side. Not from inside. From their side. Like something had gotten out. Was walking around and now wanted back in. At dawn, they packed everything. Didn't shower, didn't eat, just threw their bags in the car and left. The husband insisted on one thing before they went. He took a photo of that black door, just to have proof, to show people, to make sense of it later. When they'd looked at the photo an hour down the road, they almost crashed the car. In the image, the door was open, just slightly. Maybe 2 inches, and in that crack of darkness, something pale was visible. Fingers. Long, pressed against the frame, like something had been watching them take the picture, like something had been there the whole time. Neither of them remember the door being open. They swear it was closed. They swear they would have seen. They left the next morning without saying goodbye to the host. When they checked the listing again, weeks later, it was gone. Removed from the platform. No explanation, no reviews, just gone. And when they drove past the property months later, out of morbid curiosity, the barn was boarded up, condemned, yellow tape across the door. But here's the thing that still keeps them awake. That black door, the one that was supposed to be inside, upstairs. It was nailed to the outside of the building, facing out, like it had always been an exit, not an entrance. They never found out what was behind that black door, but sometimes, late at night, they still hear the scratching. In their own home now, faint, persistent, getting closer to their bedroom door. The third story is about a man traveling alone for work. He booked a small house near the Blue Ridge Parkway. 1 bedroom, quiet, perfect for catching up on emails and sleep. The first night was fine. The second night, he woke up at 3 a.m. to the sound of a child laughing. Not outside, inside, in the living room. He got up, heart pounding, and crept toward the sound. The laughing stopped the moment he reached the doorway. The room was empty, cold, the kind of cold that doesn't come from an open window. It comes from something else. He checked every lock, every window, all secure. He tried to sleep, couldn't. At 3:15 a.m., the laughing started again. This time, closer, right outside his bedroom door. He turned on every light in the house and stayed awake until sunrise. When he contacted the host, she didn't seem surprised. "Oh, that," she said casually. "Some guests mention hearing things. It's just the house settling, old pipes, wind." But he found something before he left, a photograph tucked behind the mirror in the bathroom. A family, mother, father, little girl. The girl was smiling, but someone had scratched out her face completely. Just a hole in the paper where her eyes should have been. He left the photo where he found it. He didn't ask questions. Some answers are worse than the mystery, but curiosity got the better of him. Back home, he couldn't stop thinking about that photograph, about the little girl with no face. He started researching, found an old obituary. The family had lived in that house 30 years ago. Mother, father, daughter, Emily. age 7, she'd gone missing one winter night. Walked out into the woods behind the house. They found her 3 days later, frozen, half a mile from home. But here's what the obituary didn't mention. What he found in a local news archive, in a tiny article buried in the back pages. Emily had been sleepwalking, had a history of it. And the night she disappeared, her parents had heard her laughing, walking through the house. They thought she was playing. They didn't check on her, not until morning. By then, she was already gone. The man tried to move on, tried to forget. But 3 weeks after his stay, he woke up at 3 a.m. in his own home, hundreds of miles away, and heard it. A child laughing in his living room. He doesn't travel anymore, doesn't stay in rentals, because some things don't stay where you find them. Some things follow you home, and Emily is still looking for someone to play with. The fourth story comes from 2 friends on a hiking trip. They rented a cabin near the Virginia border. Small, remote, the kind of place you go to disappear for a weekend. Everything seemed normal until the second night. They were sitting by the fire when they heard knocking. 3 slow knocks on the front door. They looked at each other. No one else was supposed to be out here. One of them got up and opened the door. Nothing, just darkness and trees. They shrugged it off. Probably an animal. 10 minutes later, the knocking came again. 3 knocks, same rhythm, same slow, deliberate pace. This time, they didn't open the door. They watched through the window. No one there, no movement, no sound. Then the knocking started on the back door, and the side window, and the bedroom window upstairs. All at once, 3 knocks, everywhere, surrounding the cabin like something circling prey. They locked themselves in the bathroom and waited. The knocking went on for 20 minutes, then stopped. Complete silence. They didn't sleep. At dawn, they packed their things and left without looking back. As they drove down the mountain, one of them glanced in the rearview mirror. Someone was standing at the edge of the driveway, watching them leave. Not moving, just watching. When they checked again, the figure was gone. But that's not where this story ends. Because when they got home, they found something. In the photos they'd taken that weekend, selfies by the fire, shots of the view, the cabin at sunset, normal vacation pictures. Except in every single photo, there was someone in the background. Blurred, distant. A figure standing at the tree line, always in the same spot, always facing the cabin. They didn't see anyone when they took those pictures. They were alone, or they thought they were. But looking at the images now, they could see it clearly. Someone had been watching them the entire time. One of them zoomed in on the clearest photo, enhanced it, and what they saw made them delete every picture, smash their SD card, never speak of it again. Because the figure wasn't just standing there, it was holding something, a rope, and behind it, barely visible in the shadows, were others. 3 more figures, all standing in a line, all holding the same rope, like they were waiting. Like they had been waiting a long time for someone to answer the door. The 5th story is from a solo traveler in West Virginia. She rented a small cottage advertised as cozy and secluded. It was both. Too secluded. Miles from the nearest town. No neighbors, no lights except her own. The first night, she woke up to the smell of smoke. Not fire, cigarette smoke. She didn't smoke. The host said the property was non-smoking. She checked every room. Nothing. No source. The smell faded after a few minutes. She went back to bed, uneasy but too tired to think about it. The second night, the smell came back, stronger. And this time, she heard footsteps in the kitchen, slow, dragging slightly like someone limping. She called out. The footsteps stopped, but the cigarette smoke lingered, thick, stale, like it had been there for years. She left a light on and didn't sleep. In the morning, she found something on the kitchen counter. A half-burned cigarette. Still warm, ash at the tip, like someone had just put it down. She packed her car in under 10 minutes and left. No refund request, no complaint. She just wanted out. Later, she found an old news article about the property. A man had lived there alone for 30 years. Chain smoker, recluse. He died in the house. Heart attack in the kitchen, wasn't found for 3 weeks. The cottage had been renovated, repainted, relisted. But some things don't renovate. Some things stay. The woman thought that was the end of it. A creepy coincidence, nothing more. But 2 months later, she smelled it again. Cigarette smoke in her apartment. In the middle of the night, she lived alone. Didn't allow smoking. No one had been there. She opened the windows, turned on fans, but the smell wouldn't leave. It hung in her bedroom like fog. And then she heard it. The footsteps. That same dragging limp, moving through her hallway toward her bedroom. She locked the door, pushed her dresser against it. The footsteps stopped right outside. She could see the shadow under the door. 2 feet, standing there, waiting. She called the police, but by the time they arrived, the shadow was gone. The smell was gone. No evidence anyone had been there. She moved out a week later. Stayed with friends, didn't tell them why, but sometimes when she's somewhere new, somewhere she thinks is safe, she'll smell it. Just for a second. Cigarette smoke. And she knows. He followed her. He's still following her. And one of these nights, those footsteps won't stop at the door. The 6th story comes from a group of college students. Spring break in the Appalachians, cheap cabin rental, perfect for a weekend of hiking and drinking. They arrived late Friday night. The place was bigger than expected. 3 bedrooms, a loft, plenty of space. Everything was fine until Sunday morning. One of them woke up early and went downstairs for coffee. She saw muddy footprints leading from the front door, through the living room, up the stairs, stopping at the loft door, where they'd all been sleeping. No one had gone outside that night. No one had muddy shoes. The prints were too big, too deep, like someone had stood there for a long time, watching them sleep. They checked the locks, all still locked from the inside. They checked the windows, closed, secure. No explanation. They decided to leave that afternoon. No one wanted to stay another night, but before they left, one of them checked the loft, just to make sure they hadn't forgotten anything. That's when she saw it, on the wall above where they'd been sleeping, written in mud, still wet, still dripping. 3 words, "I was here." They ran, didn't pack, didn't clean up, just grabbed their keys and ran. One of them checked the guest book before they left, hands shaking. Most reviews were normal, but one entry, written months earlier, just said, "Don't sleep in the loft." Nothing else, no name, no date. And below it, in different handwriting, someone had added, "We didn't listen. The students never went back." Never talked about it except to each other. But one of them, the girl who found the message, started having nightmares. She'd wake up seeing muddy footprints on her ceiling, like someone was walking upside down above her bed. She'd hear breathing, close, right next to her ear. And she'd feel it, the weight of someone standing on her chest, watching her, waiting. The 7th story is from a couple with a young daughter. They rented a farmhouse in rural Kentucky for a quiet family weekend. The house was old, beautiful in a faded, forgotten kind of way. Their daughter loved it. She spent the whole first day exploring. That night, she told them about her new friend. "A little boy," she said. "He lives in the closet." They laughed. Imaginary friends were normal at her age. But the next night, she said the boy wanted to show her something. something in the walls. They didn't laugh that time. They checked the closet. Empty, just old hangers and dust. But their daughter insisted. "He's right there," she said, pointing. "Can't you see him?" The mother knelt down, looked her daughter in the eyes. "What does he look like, sweetie?" The little girl smiled. "He has no eyes," she said, "just holes. And he's really, really cold." The parents looked at each other. That night, they heard scratching. Inside the walls, small hands moving through the spaces between rooms. Following them, their daughter slept through it, smiling, like she was dreaming something wonderful. They decided to leave early. Better safe than sorry. As they packed the car, their daughter waved at the upstairs window. "Bye-bye," she said. "Can he come with us?" "No, honey," the father said. "He needs to stay here." They looked up. For just a moment, they swore they saw something. A shadow, small, child-sized, pressed against the glass. Then it was gone. Their daughter cried the whole way home. She said the boy was sad. He wanted her to stay. He wanted a sister. They never told her what they saw. They didn't want her to know that sometimes when children see things, they're not imagining them. But 3 nights later, the scratching started. In their house, in the walls, in their daughter's room. She didn't seem scared. She seemed happy. "He came with us," she whispered. "He's in my closet now." They moved out a month later. Didn't sell the house, just left, abandoned it, because the scratching never stopped. And their daughter stopped sleeping. She'd just sit up in bed, smiling at the closet, talking to someone they couldn't see, someone who answered back, in a voice too old for a child. They don't know where she is now. Their daughter, she disappeared last winter, walked into the woods behind their new house. They found her 3 days later, sitting in the snow, smiling, holding hands with someone, but no one was there. When they asked her who she'd been with, she just smiled. "My brother," she said. "He found me." The 8th story comes from a man on a solo road trip. He rented a cabin outside Gatlinburg one night, just a place to crash. He arrived exhausted, unlocked the door, dropped his bag, and noticed the photographs on the wall, family portraits, old, sepia-toned, normal enough. Except in every single photograph, someone had drawn red circles around one person. The same person. A woman in a white dress, standing in the back of every group shot, always slightly out of focus. He looked closer. In some photos, she wasn't supposed to be there. Weddings, birthday parties, funerals. She appeared in all of them, always in white, always watching. He tried to sleep. Couldn't. At midnight, he heard humming, a woman's voice, soft, melodic, coming from the hallway. He opened the door. Nothing there, but the humming continued, moving through the house, room to room, getting closer. He turned on every light, grabbed his phone, called the host. No answer. The humming stopped. Complete silence. He packed his things, got ready to leave. That's when he saw her. Standing in the corner of the living room, a woman in a white dress, pale, translucent, staring at him. Not moving, not breathing, just staring. He ran, left the door open, left his bag, just ran to his car and drove. He didn't stop until he was 3 towns over. The next day, he messaged the host asking about the photos, asking about the woman. The host never replied. The listing disappeared 2 days later, but the man couldn't let it go. He went back, in daylight, with a friend. The cabin was still there, but it looked different, older, like years had passed instead of days. The door was locked. They looked through the windows. The inside was empty. No furniture, no photos. Just bare walls and dust, like no one had lived there in decades. But on one wall, they saw something, written in the dust, fresh. Recent. A message. You came back, and below it, a single word. Good. They left. Didn't speak the whole drive home. But that night, the man woke up to humming in his bedroom, right next to his ear. And when he opened his eyes, he saw her. The woman in white, sitting on the edge of his bed, smiling. She leaned close, whispered something. He couldn't understand the words, but he felt them. Cold, final, like a promise. He moved across the country a month later, but it didn't matter, because some things don't care about distance. Some things wait. And when you see them, really see them, they see you too, and they never look away. The 9th story is about 3 friends on a winter trip. They rented a lodge in the mountains. Snowstorm rolled in the first night. Heavy, blinding. They were snowed in by morning. No problem, they thought. Plenty of food, plenty of firewood. They'd wait it out. But on the second night, they found something in the basement. A door, hidden behind old furniture, unlocked. Inside was a small room, empty except for a chair. Facing the wall, and on the wall, hundreds of tally marks, scratched deep into the wood, covering every inch. Days, maybe, months, years. Someone had been counting. One of them reached out to touch the marks. The wood was warm, like someone had just been sitting there, just been scratching. They heard a sound behind them, a scraping. They turned. The chair had moved, just slightly, like someone had stood up from it. They ran out of the room, slammed the door, pushed the furniture back. That night, they heard footsteps in the basement, pacing back and forth, back and forth. The same rhythm. Over and over. They locked the basement door from their side and waited for the snow to clear. But the footsteps didn't stop. All night, all day, pacing, never stopping, never slowing. One of them couldn't take it anymore. He opened the basement door, just a crack, just to see. The footsteps stopped immediately. Silence. He opened the door wider. The basement was dark, but not empty. Someone was standing at the bottom of the stairs, facing up, perfectly still. He couldn't see a face, just a shape, a silhouette, waiting. He slammed the door, locked it, but it was too late, because that night, the footsteps started upstairs, in the hallway, outside their bedrooms, the same pacing, back and forth, like whatever was in the basement had gotten out. And now it was looking for the room, the chair, the wall, to start counting again. They didn't wait for the snow to clear. They walked out into the storm, 15 miles to the nearest town. One of them didn't make it. They found him 2 days later, frozen, sitting against a tree. But here's what they didn't tell anyone. His hands, they were covered in scratches, deep, bloody, like he'd been clawing at something. And in the snow around him, someone had drawn tally marks. Hundreds of them, circling his body. When they checked the footage from his phone, the last video he recorded was from the night before. He was walking through the storm, talking to someone walking next to him. But in the video, he was alone. Just him, walking, talking to empty air, and laughing. The kind of laughter that doesn't sound human anymore. The 10th and final story comes from a woman traveling alone. She rented a small cabin near the Tennessee border. Peaceful, quiet, perfect. Everything was fine until she found the journal tucked under the bed, old, worn, filled with handwritten entries. She started reading out of curiosity. The entries were from previous guests, dated, detailed. Most were normal. Beautiful stay. Loved the view. Would come back, but the last few entries were different. Someone wrote, "I heard my name called 3 times last night." Another, "I saw someone standing at the foot of my bed." Another, "Don't go into the woods after dark." Another, "Something followed me home." The final entry was only 2 days old. It said, "If you're reading this, don't stay past midnight. Leave before then. Trust me." She checked the time, 11:43 p.m. She grabbed her keys, her phone, her bag, and ran. She didn't stop until she reached her car, didn't look back, didn't lock the cabin door. She just drove. As she pulled onto the main road, her phone buzzed. A notification from the Airbnb app, a message from the host, sent at 11:47 p.m. It said, "Did you find the journal?" She blocked the number, deleted the app, and never looked at another mountain rental again. But 3 weeks later, she received a package, no return address. Inside was the journal, the same one. But now there was a new entry, written in handwriting she recognized. Her own, dated 2 days from now. It said, "I went back. I shouldn't have, but I heard it calling, and I couldn't resist." To this day, that cabin is still listed, still rented, still waiting. And somewhere, in a drawer or under a bed, that journal is still there, filling up with new entries, new warnings, from people who stayed just a little too long. The mountains remember. They always do. And what lives in those hills doesn't forget. The Appalachian wilderness is old, older than the roads, older than the towns, and some places in those mountains aren't meant for visitors. They're meant for something else, something that's been there long before us and will be there long after. These 10 stories are real, shared by real people who came looking for peace and left with something they couldn't explain, something they still feel watching them, even now, even far from those mountains, even in their own homes. Because here's what they don't tell you about the Appalachians, about those old cabins and forgotten roads. They're not just places, they're passages, thin spaces where the veil between what is and what was grows weak, where the past doesn't stay buried, where the dead don't always rest, and where some doors, once opened, can never truly be closed. The woman from the first story never stayed in a rental again. But it didn't matter, because a year later, she bought a house. A nice house, in a safe neighborhood far from the mountains. And on her first night, she heard them, footsteps upstairs, where no one else should be. The couple from the second story divorced. Not because they stopped loving each other, but because every night one of them would wake up and see the other standing in the hallway, just standing there, staring at the bedroom. And when they'd call out, their partner would answer from the bed, still asleep, still lying next to them. So who was standing in the hallway? The man from the third story never had children. He was too afraid of what they might see, afraid of who they might talk to, because he knows now that children see things, true things, things adults have learned to ignore. And some things shouldn't be seen, shouldn't be acknowledged, because once you see them, they see you, and they never stop looking. The friends from the fourth story don't talk anymore. They tried, but every conversation would end the same way. One of them would hear 3 knocks on their door, on their window, on their car, and they'd know. It had followed them home. All of them. And now it was waiting, patient, for one of them to answer. The woman from the fifth story disappeared last year. No note, no explanation. Her apartment was found empty, everything in place except for one thing. On her kitchen counter, they found a cigarette, half burned, still warm, and muddy footprints leading from her front door to her bedroom, and then nothing, like she'd simply walked into the air, vanished. But her neighbors reported something strange. They'd seen her leaving her apartment that night, walking toward the woods at the edge of town. But she wasn't alone. Someone was walking beside her, limping, and she was smiling. The college students from the 6th story graduated, moved on, got jobs, started lives. But one by one, they started experiencing the same thing. They'd wake up to find muddy footprints in their homes, leading to their bedrooms, stopping at the foot of their beds. And on their pillows, they'd find messages written in mud, fresh, wet. Always the same 3 words. I was here. 2 of them have already disappeared. The others know they're next. They just don't know when. The couple from the 7th story never saw their daughter again after she disappeared. But sometimes, late at night, they hear her voice calling from the woods, laughing, playing with someone. And they hear another voice, a boy's voice. But it doesn't sound young. It sounds ancient, hungry, and it's teaching their daughter something. Something about the walls, something about the spaces between. Something about how to find other children, other friends, and bring them home. The man from the 8th story went missing 3 months after his encounter. They found his car on the side of a mountain road, engine running, door open. Inside, they found hundreds of photographs, all of the same cabin, taken from every angle, day and night. And in every single photo, visible in every window, was the same thing. A woman in white, waving. The last photo was different. It was taken from inside the cabin, looking out at his car, at him, standing outside, holding the camera, smiling. And behind him, in the reflection of the window, someone else was smiling too. The friends from the 9th story never recovered the body of their companion. The storm had buried him too deep. But 6 months later, on the anniversary of his death, each of them received a letter. No postage, no return address, just their names. Inside was a single page covered in tally marks, and at the bottom, a note in handwriting they recognized. Their friend's handwriting. It said, "Still counting, almost done. See you soon." 2 of them have already received second letters. The tally marks are getting higher. The handwriting is getting shakier, like something's using hands that don't quite remember how to write anymore. And the woman from the 10th story, the one who found the journal, she never went back, but the journal found her anyway. It shows up in her home. Different places every time, under her bed, in her closet, on her kitchen table. And every time she finds it, there's a new entry, in her handwriting, describing things that haven't happened yet. Things that will happen. The last entry she found was dated today. It said, "I'm writing this from the cabin. I don't remember driving here. I don't remember deciding to come back. But I'm here now, and I can hear footsteps upstairs, and I think I'm going to go see who it is. I think I'm going to stay." If this story made your heart race, hit that like button and subscribe. Because here at Chills from Reality, the fear doesn't end when the story does. And if you've ever stayed somewhere that didn't feel right, somewhere that watched you a little too closely, tell me in the comments. I want to hear your story. Because out there, in those mountains, in those rentals, in those places we think are safe, something is always listening, always waiting, always there. Some doors shouldn't be opened, some cabins shouldn't be rented, some mountains shouldn't be visited, and some stories shouldn't be told. But now you know. Now you've heard the warnings. The question is, will you listen? Or will you be the next story, the next entry in that journal, the next shadow in someone else's window, the next set of footprints leading nowhere? The Appalachian Mountains are beautiful, but beauty hides things, old things, hungry things, patient things, things that know your name before you ever arrive, things that whisper it when you're alone, things that wait for you to let your guard down, to fall asleep, to forget. And then they move. Closer, closer, until you can't tell the difference anymore between what's real and what's watching, between what you saw and what saw you, between the living and the dead. Because in the mountains, that line doesn't exist. It never did. We just pretend it does because the truth is too heavy to carry. The truth that we're never really alone, that some places keep what enters them, that some things wait in the dark corners of old cabins and forgotten roads, that some rentals aren't really for rent. They're traps, baited with cozy pictures and good reviews, waiting for someone to check in and become part of the house, part of the mountain, part of the story. So next time you book a cabin in the Appalachians, read the reviews carefully, look at the photos closely, and if you see something in the background, something that shouldn't be there, something watching, cancel your reservation. Find somewhere else, somewhere safer, somewhere that doesn't have a black door, or muddy footprints, or cigarette smoke, or children in the closet, or footsteps that pace all night, or journals filled with warnings, or photographs of women in white, or tally marks on the walls, or 3 knocks at midnight, or your name whispered in the dark. Because the mountains are patient. They've waited this long. They can wait a little longer. For you, for me, for all of us. Because eventually, we all hear the call, the pull, the invitation, and some of us answer. And when we do, we find out the truth, that the mountains don't just take, they transform, they change you into something that waits, something that watches, something that knocks 3 times, something that leaves footprints, something that scratches in the walls, something that counts, something that remembers. Sweet dreams. And remember, always check the reviews. Read between the lines. Look for the warnings hidden in 5-star ratings. Because someone tried to tell you. Someone always tries. But no one ever listens. Not until it's too late. Not until they're writing their own warning, their own entry, their own final message. From a cabin they'll never leave. In mountains that never forget. Where the rentals are always available, where the doors are always unlocked, where something is always waiting. The Appalachians remember everything. Every scream, every prayer, every last breath, and they're still listening, still watching, still waiting for the next guest, the next story, the next name to whisper in the dark. Will it be yours?